Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Alright/X/. I've been a long-time lurker and never posted anything. But tonight I have something special for you. Before we get started, I would like to mention I'm a 27-year-old male. I have no experience in the occult. But when I was younger, I talked of big game. I live in southwestern Pennsylvania. It's a very old part of the country, and a lot of history happened here. What I'm going to tell you is my account of contact made with a demonic entity 2 years ago. I would have spoken up sooner, but feared skeptics, as I was going to try to pass this off as cold, hard truth to try to convince people. That, and it completely shattered my perception of reality. But for all intents and purposes, I'm going to tell the story. You can believe it if you like, or don't believe. Or you can take it at its entertainment value. Either way, enjoy the ride. And please feel free to share stories on the related topic. Now this is pre-typed and long, so just give me a minute to get it all up. And yes, there will be green text. Now before we start with the real story, we must go back to when I was a young child at my mom's house. It was my mom, my 2 older brothers, and me living together. I was around 6 when things started getting weird at our house. When it started exactly, I can't really say. My brothers and mom, kinda, are religious. My eldest brother is now a pastor. My middle brother claimed at night he would hear loud footsteps stomping through the house at night, while no one was up. My oldest brother claimed to have seen a dark, shadowy figure come out of his room and advance towards him one day when he was coming home. He waited outside until everyone else came home. My mom claimed that she would hear something being smashed against the house at night, but no damage in the morning. She also claimed that she was nudged awake one night, thought it was me, put her arm out to pull me into bed, and nothing was there. This is what I experienced. I used to sleep in the same bed as my mom when I was a kid. Be me, laying in bed, facing the doorway. The door was wide open, then very slowly, a tall, dark figure would come out of the wall. It would inch closer, and closer and closer, made it to the doorway. I was paralyzed with fear. Only thing I could do was close my eyes. I shut them, opened them. It's gone. Then it started to come back out of the wall again, then would slowly advance towards me. Close my eyes again. Then it would reset, until I finally fell asleep and couldn't see it anymore. I never talked about it to my brothers or my mom, or anyone. I knew they talked about stuff that happened, but it was like I forgot all about it until it would start to happen later that night. One particular event only happened once. Be sleeping, wake up, immediately sit up. There is a man and a woman in my mom's bedroom, except they are transparent, looking right at me. Both smile, a very kind, non-threatening smile. They begin to talk to me, but no sound comes out. The man holds his hand out like he's offering me something. I go to grab it. Hand goes through his. They say something to each other, then they disappear. I sat there for a second confused, then back to bed. When I was in 3rd grade, I remember one day this girl who I never talked to came up to me and started talking in Spanish. She never spoke Spanish. I know this because she's my girlfriend now. She came up to me and said a few things in Spanish, then just kept repeating "Buenos noches" again and again with this cold, emotionless tone. Thought it was weird. Other kids thought it was too. Only happened once. The strange events in my house continued to happen for 4 years, then stopped. I moved when I was 15. Now let's fast forward a bit. I'm 25 at the time, living with a roommate, and I'm single. The girl who I mentioned is now my friend, and we hang out a lot. I would go over the house often. Then we realized we liked each other more than friends and started dating. She also claimed her apartment was haunted, mainly because she claimed the basement light would turn on, and once she was doing laundry and the clothes exploded out of the laundry basket once for no reason in front of her. So me and my super skeptic friend said we'll look into. I wish we hadn't. So my friend heads down to the basement alone. Sit there for half an hour. Nothing. Call down to him. "You okay?" "Yeah," he responds. Head down to the basement as well. We stand there. The air feels weird. Feel like being watched, but by what I don't know. On the far side of the basement, there are 2 saloon-style doors. Leads to a windowless root cellar where no natural light enters. Has a very bad vibe to it. My girlfriend said everything started to get weird when a friend opened that door. Nothing happens. Head back on up. Our relationship continues to flourish, and we're madly in love with each other. All that gooey, vomit-inducing bull. We begin to share secrets with each other. She claims there is a portal that she enters in dreams, and it sometimes shows her the future. I tell her I can sense spirits, but I really just block it out and don't like it. My mom can too. We're not psychics, just regular people. We start talking about what's in the basement. I can feel it downstairs below us, stomping around and angry. I then say maybe we should let it up here. Why, I had no clue. So in my mind, I just said it's cool, you can come on up here. Then I didn't feel the presence downstairs anymore. Days go by and the basement light is always found on when we return from being out. She starts to say how she thinks people were killed in this house because she gets pictures in her head. One particular day. Both of us are in the kitchen, helping each other with dishes. She made a cup of coffee, placed it on the stove. I go to grab my coffee. Half of it is all over the stove. Look at my girlfriend. Say, how hard did you put that down? She said, I just placed it there. It wasn't like that before. I'm like, I don't know, screw it. We both walked away from the kitchen to grab our cigarettes. Come back to the kitchen. There's a cup rolling on the floor. Think I just dropped it. Then it starts rolling back and forth, speeding up and slowing down, ignoring laws of conservation. Both watch awestruck. It stops dead in its tracks. Then I feel like his invisible cold hands wrap around my waist, like I was being hugged by a small child. Back up and go WTF. Rest of the night was quiet after that. As our relationship progresses, the house starts to take on a very nasty vibe. The air feels heavy, and it feels like there is some type of interference that affects your ability to think with a clear mind, like a mental static or fog. We start becoming a little aggressive towards each other, and for no reason. We just got together. Then another incident happens, both laying in bed. She's sleeping. I'm about to just fall asleep. Crash. Something fell on the floor in the bathroom. Next morning, she says her makeup and stuff that was kept in a basket on top of the toilet was all over the floor. I chalk it up at not being on a flat surface and dismiss it. More time goes by and weirder things start happening. Shoes would disappear. You'd set your phone down in one room and find it in another. A 3/4 inch thick solid rubber stylus was found ripped in two. Me and my friends tried to reproduce that result and found we weren't strong enough, even with a person pulling on each end, to rip another one in two. And we became increasingly more aggressive towards each other. The basket on the toilet would continue to get shoved off the toilet at random intervals during the day and night, after I had taped it to the toilet because it was becoming annoying. Now, as I said, we became increasingly aggressive towards each other. Then, on one particular day, we couldn't stand each other. She was getting ready for work. I was laying in bed watching her, and she had this really pissed look on her face. I felt really depressed for some reason. She leaves and scowls at me as she walks out the door, no goodbye from either person, just left. So I'm sitting there in the bed feeling really depressed. Then I remember the dream I had. And it was about my ex, except she looked very different. She had black eyes and what looked like black eyeshadow around her eyes. And she was just saying how many people she slept when she was with me and just really off-the-wall stuff. I then start thinking about self-termination. Say to myself, when I get back to my place, I'm gonna hang myself from the ceiling fan in my bedroom. At this point, I'm literally crying from this sudden severe depression. Then it dawned on me. It's this house. It's making me feel like this then. I look over at the dresser, watch in shock, as one of her shirts, which was all the way in the drawer, snake out of the drawer as if being pulled by an invisible force, then fall on the ground. I realize it definitely is this place and I need to leave now. Get up, throw on clothes, head towards the front door before I walk out. In a defiant voice, I say, "What are you gonna do? Trash the place?" Then leave, soon as I step out. Weight is lifted off my shoulders. My mind feels sharp again. No thoughts of self-termination. Go home and play Vidya. Aliens, Colonial Marines, horrible game. I get home, sit at my PC, and start playing some games with my friend, the same person that went down to the basement. Text girlfriend says, "Hey, I don't know what's been going on, but things have been weird between us." She agrees, we say sorry to each other and make up. Then she gets home and texts me that the entire back portion of the apartment is trashed, like it was ransacked, but nothing was missing. Then on the bathroom floor, there was one word in Spanish written in lotion. I know sounds weird. It said, ayudar, which means help. The way that it was written was odd, so it looked like it was slowly dripping on the floor. But the spacing and letter consistency was damn near perfect. I came over immediately with a friend to confirm. Everything she said was true, about it being trashed. We decide we want to set up cameras, so we do. They captured nothing. But my friend's shoes were found in our bedroom. I watched him take them off at the door. Then a day or two passes and my roommate comes home. His job has him leave for a week, then come back. So my roommate and I went over to her house one day, and she's there. My friend claims he can sense spirits too. He goes to the bathroom. He sits in the tub, sits for a second. Says, yay, something's here. Says it's a little girl. The bathroom used to be her room. She was killed. Says she moved stuff in the house because we scare her. Made no sense. Says she's sitting next to him at the edge of the tub. I put my hand where he says she is. Air feels very cold. It's summertime, mind you. All of a sudden, he says that she said she has to go, and that he's coming and he's scary. My roommate gets up, said she's gone. We both leave. I don't know why I thought it was safe. I was just that skeptical. So me and my roomie leave. I told her I'd be back later. My roommate wanted to get a new car because he got a letter from a dealership saying they would buy his old one. They knew the exact model and make, it was stated in the letter, at a high price, and got him a new car. So I said, yeah, man, you should probably do that. So we go to the dealership, they hook him up with a new set of wheels. Then he takes me back over to her place. I walk through the door. Hey, hun, she's in the kitchen. I get this weird urge to go check on the bathroom. So I do, walk into the bathroom, and saw what looked like blood on the wall of the tub. Okay, investigation mode. Get closer. Notice it's not blood, it's lipstick. And it's a message. And it's in Spanish. It says, Me llamo Ana, tenga miedo. Translated on my phone. It said, my name is Anna. Be afraid. Realize it's not safe here. Tell girlfriend we got to go. We're going to her friend's house for a bit. Leave the house promptly afterwards. When we got to her friend's house, I explained what's going on. Girlfriend is completely silent. They say, hey, it's cool, no problem. So we're sitting there. And then all of a sudden, my girlfriend demands that we go back to her place and that she's not staying here. She says there is absolutely nothing wrong with that place, and that she pays money to be there, and she wants to be around her stuff. I told her just 40 minutes ago we were running out of there. Now you want to go back? And she says yes. I say, you do remember something isn't right with that place. She says she has no clue and everything is fine. We should just go back. I say, hell no, not till we figure everything out. And then she said, figure what out? Completely denies even claiming the place was haunted. So I just dropped it. And we end up just staying at the friend's house. And as I'm sitting there studying her, something seems very off about her. Denying that her place is haunted when she was the one that told me about, for starters. Her eyes that were always a bright, vibrant blue seemed very pale. Her cheery and positive demeanor had vanished as well, and had been replaced with a very malicious facial expression. As I'm sitting there observing her, I hear a little faint voice in my head say, that's not her, something's wrong. I then, just out of curiosity, tried to hold her hand, and as soon my hand touches hers, she rips her hand away from me and scowls at me. I say, what's wrong? She says nothing. Continues to say nothing until she falls asleep unusually early. I stay up for a bit because I'm weary that she may try to go back home and then who knows what will happen. So I turned on her friend's Wii and started watching some Attack on Titan. I just needed something else to focus on because things were getting stressful. Then I get incredibly sleepy. I'm a horrible sleeper. It takes hours to fall asleep. I never get extremely drowsy. So I shut the Wii and the TV off and start to fall asleep then. Wake up. TV and Wii are back on. Turn them both off. Put Wiimote on coffee table. It was laying on the ground beside me. Go back to sleep. Wake back up. TV and Wii are back on. Shut them both off again. Wake back up. I'm being strangled by an invisible force. My head is being driven back into the pillow. Fight to sit up. Stranglehold releases. Was so tired I went back to sleep. Wake up. I'm being strangled again by an invisible force. Fight it again until it releases. Again, too tired to process what's going on. Fall back asleep. Wake up. My girlfriend is walking past me and heading into the kitchen. has a malicious look on her face. I go to get up and see what she's gonna do. As she walks past me, I can't move. Feel like my limbs are being held down. And then she nods at me and I just pass out. Wake up the next morning. "Help!" is written on her arm. The lamp switch on the coffee table was snapped off at a weird angle. Decide it's no longer okay to sleep at night around her. From what she told me, she went outside that night and told me something else was with her. It said it could give her power and other things as well. She claimed that she flew to the next town over and came back that night. I don't know what she said. At this point, I'm gripped with fear. I have no clue what's going on. I know we're not going back to that place until things could be resolved. She seemed fine, and we took her to work. She said she kept slamming her hands in drawers at work and didn't know why. We then stopped by the apartment to pick some clothes up for her. When we walked through the door to my girlfriend's apartment, the smell was horrible. It smelled like rotting meat. It didn't smell like that when we left. Also, she's big on keeping the place clean. The smell was everywhere in every room and had no distinct source. Me and her friend quickly gather some of my girlfriend's clothes, then leave. My friend comes over later that day. At this point, we realize that we may very well be dealing with a demon. My girlfriend then texts me and says that she still needs to go to the apartment and get some stuff we forgot. It's daytime, and I got my friend with me, so we met her there and we all go in. At this point, she's acting strange again. She starts to aimlessly rummage through the house looking for nothing. She's swearing as she does so. My friend discreetly pulls out his camera on his phone and starts to record her strange behavior. She immediately notices and demanded that he stopped. She then walks to the bathroom. Me and my friend tail behind her, not letting her out of our sight. She runs into the dark bathroom and closes the door. I immediately open it. The lights are still in the bathroom. I turn them on. I say, "What are you doing?" She says, "Using the bathroom." I say, "With lights off?" She say, "Yay." Then I say, "Hey, I can't let you be in there in the dark with the door closed because of everything that's going on." She makes a good point and says she's not going with the door open because my friend is there. He says to her he'll walk away. It's no big deal. "No go," I say. "At least turn the light on," and she does and closes the door. Now the thing with the bathroom door is that it's slotted. You can see into the bathroom if you look between the slots. This what I saw. Look into the bathroom through the slots in the door. See girlfriend. She is standing on top of the toilet, reaches into the medicine cabinet for a pill bottle. I have my hand on the doorknob at the ready. I say, "Hey, what are you doing?" thinking she's gonna try to OD on something. Gets down off the toilet, bends down at the door, looks through the exact same slot as me. Instinctively knew which slot to look through. Her eyes meet mine. Says it's not nice to peek. I open the door. We're leaving. Drag her out of the bathroom. She stops in her room and wastes more time. Is shoved to the floor by an invisible force. Make haste and leave. As we are leaving, she acts very weird. She said she saw herself standing in the window when we were leaving and outside, but she's really standing next to me. Then switches back to the "I don't want to be touched" bit. At this point, I'm certain it's a demonic entity. I grab her by the hand. She tries to escape my grasp, but I hold on tight. Look at her. The demon now. Say it was a bad idea to occupy this body. You can now be contained. Looks at me, says, "I'd like to see you try." I say, "We'll just have to see." As we were driving back to her friend's house, I was in the back seat and she was sitting in the front, and without her noticing, I took a small cross that I had and pressed it against her neck. She immediately tensed up, then looked behind her at me and gave me this look of, "I'm going to kill you for that." We made it back to her friend's house, and she's normalish now. Knows what is going on in the situation. See, it was weird because 1 second should be fine. Then I guess this thing would attempt to take her over again, and it took all her will to fight it off. She would become immobile, her eyes would get very pale, and she wasn't able to speak. It got worse at night, and by that I mean it was too strong. During the day, I found that if I carry her out of the house and put her in direct sunlight, the effects would start to cease. The only problem is there is only so much daylight. One particular instance, I kept saying her name and that she needed to keep fighting. She looked up at me and said, "That's not my name." And then 5 minutes later, whatever it was gave up, until the next attack, and it would inevitably win. But from my understanding, it seemed that it didn't have total control yet. In between these periods, she would be pushed to the ground by an invisible force. And I couldn't help but notice the amount of strange-looking insects that started to gather inside any room she was in. After she would come out of these states, she would be very tired and weak. After a particularly nasty episode that lasted for an hour, she began to tell me things I would never tell anyone, and for good reason. And the way she explained it was as if she was there experiencing it. You see, for a long time, between 15 to 24, I wasn't in the best mental health. I had really bad depression that would explode into psychotic rage. I was in and out of mental institutions constantly. I would either violently attempt self-termination, or I would just go crazy and start destroying anything one next to me. Worst part is, I could see myself act like this, but I felt like something else was making me do it. I'd do a bit in the mental institution, which would only be a couple of days, and then get released because I exhibited no signs of continued negative symptoms. It knew me my entire life, would visit me in my dreams disguised as a child, asked me what my fears were. I'd gladly tell because I was a kid. It would influence me to do things. She told me it said that I had a lot of evil inside me, that it was very fond of me, that it had lost me. I moved away for a year, and now it found me again. We need to go back to her place soon. Her body can't stay separated from her soul for too long. It will eventually take full control. It was a lot to take in, the parts about me that left me feeling like my entire life was just a game to something, and never had a clue. And the parts about going back to the apartment were just as uneasy feeling as well. I thought if we went there alone, that thing would take control, and I don't know what would happen. But it would most likely be bad. I tell her we need to just chill for a second and come up with a plan. So we do it for an hour. She sketches a simple drawing of the demon-long shredded black robe from head to toe. No feet, though, or toes. Black smoke coming out of the bottom of the robe, hovered a bit off the ground. Long arms with long, pale fingers and claws for fingernails. It wore a mask that looked similar to the mask in my original post at the top. Great Game seemed kind of cheesy, it wearing a mask and all. If it actually had a function, I have no clue. It could extend and retract its limbs, can change shapes and size, can look like other people. So after all this, I'm like, let's come up with a plan. She said she already had one. She said in her house she has some sage. Real sage, not the cooking shit. And rosemary. I immediately saw what she was getting at. Some type of purification ritual. I had heard of it, didn't know if it worked, but when you are desperate. She had previously told me she used to practice magic and shit and that she was good at it. But stopped because she didn't like what she was doing to people. So before we leave to attempt this god-awful plan, I say prayer and promise to God in the other room. Say that I'm sorry for the things I've done, and that from here on out I'll let you take control of my life, and I'll adhere to your commands. Became a Christian, all right, and no, we're not going to start preaching in this thread either. But after that short emotional prayer, I felt what was like a flame become ignited in my chest. Everything became very vivid and sharp. My weary demeanor from not sleeping for 3 nights wore off, and fear was replaced with serenity. We then settled up and headed out the door. She said we had to do it before nightfall. The walk felt like the longest walk of my life. We both walked together and then made it to the house. She told me I couldn't go in with her. As we opened the door, I felt a presence at the door. It was different, not malicious, but warm. I looked at her and said, "That's you, isn't it?" And she said yes. She steps inside and turns around to face me and says no matter what I hear, I can't come in and just stay put. So I do. 10 minutes go by and I hear banging and screaming inside the apartment. Then the bathroom window slides open. White smoke is billowing out of it. And then she appears in the window. Looks completely normal. Eye color is correct. Facial expressions are correct. Seems totally normal again. Says she got to burn the stuff in every room and open all the windows. So she does, and as she's going from room to room, I'm following her along on the outside until all the rooms have been cleansed. She then comes to the door and tells me it's okay to come in now. I step inside and the entire place is filled with smoke. I look at her and say, "Did you get the basement?" And she said no. But she feels normal again. I say I'll get the basement, but come with me. So I take a dish and load it up with sage and rosemary, and we head down to the basement. I feel it down there. We head to the little windowless root cellar where no light touches. I open the double doors and place the incense in there and ignite it. As I was doing this, I got the mental picture that it was cowering in that room. After I lit the incense, I loudly recited word for word the Lord's Prayer, the long version. I had never spoken it before, but all the words came to me. After the prayer, I slammed the double doors shut. We walked back up the stairs, and I mentally revoked the permission I gave it to come upstairs. After that, everything was quiet, and the house felt normal again. Then later that night, my friend calls me panicked, saying that thing was after him now, and that he could hear it in his head. He's never called me panicking or ever claimed to hear voices. He's a very thorough scientific person. Then I hear a loud voice in my head saying he has to delete the data he collected. You see, the whole time these events transpired, I knew that he was secretly recording everything. I told him to erase the data and it'll make it go away. He does, so I call him the next day and everything's all quiet. I was scarred by the entire event. For 2 months I slept with the lights on. For 2 months I jumped at any sound. For 2 months I was paranoid out of my mind. But I eventually recovered and got my mental bearing back. 4 months passed after the event. And then negative vibes began again around the house. You see, the problem is that we were only able to cleanse the first floor of this place, and there was still an upstairs, which we couldn't get to because people live there, and how are you going to explain to them that shit? So it never really left. I worked midnights sometimes, and my girlfriend would text me that she heard screaming in the living room, or just really loud stomping in the kitchen. We decided that we just had to move. After we found a place, we started to pack immediately, and as we were packing, we started to get the feeling that we really didn't want to move, even though we both know that the house is screwed. I tell her it's just whatever is here is trying its damnedest to keep us here. I say as soon as we walk out of the door, we won't miss this place, and we didn't. The day we left, the house was radiating negative energy. My girlfriend was at the new place, and me and my brother were going back and forth loading and unloading. We make it down to the basement to get the appliances. And I tell my brother, don't open the double doors, that's where it is. As we were unhooking everything, he started to get a really bad headache. Said he couldn't think clearly and we just needed to hurry up and get out. I was beginning to feel the same way and agreed. Before we left, I took a Sharpie and wrote on double doors, "Demon inside, do not open." And that was the last time I set foot in that place. My life is normal now. I don't hear voices in my head that aren't mine. I don't erupt into fits of rage anymore, and I'm not depressed either. I still keep my faith in God and now feel like I can deal with anything. But it begs the question, was this a manifestation of my own personal demons projecting on the ones I love? Or was it really an entity separate from me that had finally surfaced? Or was it a mix between both? I'll never know. I still drive past that place every now and again. And every time I drive past, I can tell that the basement light is on, regardless of the time of day. I wonder if the poor bastards that live there now know what's going on.
OP, I'm Muslim, and my mother was possessed by a demon too, actually more than one, and the exact same symptoms have manifested as I was fighting it with her the way you did with your girlfriend. The most shocking thing is that indeed, it's far from the Hollywood version of what possessions are like. It's more like a depression symptom-wise, but sometimes event that physically alter reality, like when fishes flew everywhere happen, but not so often. Just enough to make you look crazy, and that's how they do it. Deception. Making people think it's all in their minds, that they don't exist in order to be able to do what they want. One thing for sure, before that happened, I was as skeptical as someone can be, and I was atheist, hating my Muslim friends because of the backward way of living of some of them. I live in a Muslim country, and I already posted about my mom's story on the board. It was a big change in the way I've seen things, and I became more spiritually aware. Thing is, most rituals work, some are stronger than others, and it doesn't rely only on the religion itself. It's more related, I think, to the individual's faith and will. Words, it's the most effective weapon, verses of a holy book, and the will to make an entity go is all you need. But there is one rule I learned from all of the different exorcisms that I had to assist to or do. It's that it's God, or Allah, or whatever is in control, that has the power to make those things go, and by its will only, which make those ritual most of the time based on asking God to kick the entity's ass. I do not know if you're role-playing, But I don't think you are, as most role players depict those imaginary events with some dramatic green vomit on the wall type scenario. But I hope you have a better life now with, I hope, less if no encounters like this, because they do make you stronger. But the price to pay in terms of mental stability is far higher. Anyway, to people who read that, if you make your life environment nasty and evil, it will attract evil things, and those things don't want to go easily. Some Imam scholars believe that sometimes a demon is born just out of a wicked, unholy environment, like literally it creates it and starts feeding off this nastiness. Good luck, OP.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.